Fanduel lists SMU as the second shortest odds to win the ACC Championship game this season. Is this the product of a really good team or a really bad schedule?
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU on this Tuesday edition, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I'm Grayson Singleton, and coming up on the show today, are the Mustangs prepared for the defense to potentially take a step back in its first season without Scott Simons? Plus, is the left side of the offensive line going to iron itself out over spring practice, or is this something we're going to have to wait until fall camp to be able to determine? So we'll talk about all of that on the show. But first, we want to tell you that our episode today, ironically, is brought to you by Fanduel. During the tournament, Fanduel is offering $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Head to fanduel.com to get started with Fanduel. Okay, speaking of our friends at Fanduel, they have SMU as a plus 700 to win the ACC Championship. Not just get there, but win the ACC Championship game. It is the second shortest odds, only behind the defending national runner-ups, the Miami Hurricanes, at minus 135. So they almost think it's a shoo-in that Miami is going to get back to the ACC Championship game. Behind SMU at plus 1,100 is Louisville, so you've got a little bit of a gap there. And then Clemson at plus 1,600 and Pitt at plus 1,700 along with Virginia. So the Mustangs, one of the favorites to reach the ACC title game. Now, could they potentially win it? Could they potentially win it against somebody other than Miami? Yes, because, well, even though Mario Cristobal took the team to the national championship, is he completely done being Mario Cristobal yet? We'll probably talk about that down the line. But for SMU this year, is it a product of a bad schedule or a product of a really good team? And I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, shaded toward it's a really good team, especially offensively. When you look at the additions that they made over the offseason, I really like the addition of Kendrick Raphael. I think he's going to be a game changer. And I think you're going to have a decent wide receiver core with a lot of upside. Guys like Yannick Smith, Jalen Hale coming over through the transfer portal, along with the ascension of Jalen Cooper. And then we'll see what Carterius Brown gives you. But you've got a loaded core, not to mention the tight ends that you brought over as well. So, especially offensively, you're going to have a team that should be able in the ACC to put up a lot of points. Not to mention, maybe the best returning quarterback in the conference. I think it's a shoo-in between him and Darian Mensah. I think they're 1 and 2. But when you look at the quality of the team, still got continuity on defense. Now we got to see if you can replace all the playmakers that you lost from a year ago. But when you look at the continuity on defense, the star power offensively, plus you've got a coach who, by the way, is still trying to prove himself to be one of the better national coaches in college football. You've got a team with some real upside. And that's why we did the segment yesterday talking about what are the realistic expectations for this team based on its schedule. And 11-3, while I don't know if I'd bet on it, 11-3 is a realistic possibility when you look at who these teams are that they're playing. Florida State is not expected to be good. Louisville, that'll be tough, especially because you're playing them in Kentucky. But then after that, look at the rest of the ACC schedule for SMU. Boston College, Virginia, Cal could be a good game. Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Stanford. A year after you got what was perceived to be the murderer's row, where you had to play Miami and Clemson, you don't have that this year. As a matter of fact, if you go back to those ACC title odds for SMU, if you go back to that, the Mustangs don't play number 1. They do play number 3, but they don't play number 4, and then they play number 5. They do play number 6 as well, but then number 8, number 10, who's Florida State, number 12, 13, 15, and 16. In terms of the Fanduel odds to win the ACC Championship game, they play a very doable schedule. It's very manageable. I'll put it that way. So the question now becomes, is SMU about to hit lightning in a bottle? Are they about to capitalize on one of the few opportunities that every team in the country, regardless of conference, can have? Is that you have a good, looking to be a great coach, a 4-year man who's about to go into his 3rd season as a starter, 2nd full, really good weapons around him. Your right side of the offensive line is going to be outstanding, I believe. And then we'll see what happens on defense. But you've got a really good team combined with a pretty manageable to potentially easy schedule. You know what that reminds me of? You know what this 2026 season could remind me of? 2024 SMU, the team that went 11-2 and got into the college football playoff. Because that year in the ACC, you played Florida State and beat the ever-loving crap out of them, beat a 22nd ranked Louisville, and then beat Stanford, Duke, 18 ranked Pittsburgh, BC, Virginia, Cal, who are all bad. So you had 2 good ACC teams on the schedule that were ranked in the top 25, and then you beat everybody else, and you had one slip up. You had the one slip up against BYU, and then that was in the midst of the quarterback change, remember? So you didn't even have your signal caller situation completely ironed out. This 2026 season could remind me of 2024. With the way the schedule shakes out, you don't get the murderer's row of the ACC. We don't even know what a murderer's row ACC schedule will even look like. It would probably be an unfortunate team that has to play Miami, SMU, and Louisville, if that schedule even exists. But if this team can take care of its business, they can end up looking like the team from 2 years ago. You know, the team that preceded me having this show. So when I look at that, I say 11 wins is not off the table for this team. Would I more likely bet on 10-2? Yes. I would more likely bet on 10-2 just because that sting of that Wake Forest game is still there for me. And I don't know if SMU is a team that just completely avoids pitfalls. But in an expanded playoff like we have, 10-2 and an appearance in the conference championship game, maybe even a win there, because before Indiana, the last team to knock off Miami was SMU, should get you into the playoff. There weren't a whole lot of 10-2 teams that were left out of the college football playoff. Oh yeah, there was one and they threw a hissy fit. But if this team takes advantage of the timing of which they put a really good-looking team together and the fact that they don't have a gauntlet of a schedule, I think this team gets to the ACC Championship game. I think those FanDuel odds are right exactly where you need them to be at plus 700 to win the ACC title game. Because at that point, it's just one game. But I think that given the schedule and given the quality of the team as it looks right now, the Mustangs should be a team that should have its expectations at getting to the ACC Championship game. And at that point, we'll see what happens. All right, coming up next is Locked On SMU continues. What if the defense takes a step back without Scott Simons? I still think the Mustangs can be okay. I'll tell you why next. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. If you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes at Indeed.com. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And right now, listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, welcome back to the show here on Locked On SMU. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Would love to have you be a part of this growing community. Go ahead and like this video as well. And also want to tell you about the Everydayer Club. Get your first month free of the Everydayer Club when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to claim your first free month. Okay, welcome back to the show. Grayson Singleton here on Locked On SMU. Is the defense set to take a step back? And is the team going to be okay if they do? Now, the reason I ask this question is twofold. Number one, the obvious is Scott Simons is no longer coordinating the defense. And that is a huge, huge loss for SMU because that was a nationally acclaimed defensive coordinator across the country. Hence why the Dallas Cowboys and their new defensive regime wanted him to be a part of it as the inside linebackers coach. So big loss there. But also, you look at the players on the field that they're losing. Obviously, the leaders like Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses, but also the entire starting defensive line is needing to be replaced. So when you combine loss of coordinator and loss of all that talent, it's reasonable to think, okay, this defense might take a step back. But, I think the Mustangs can still be okay for a number of reasons. I think the Mustangs can be okay. Number one, it's not as if the defense was all that great last year. And yes, they were really good against the run. They were good at getting after the quarterback, but they were horrible against the pass. Now, them being horrible against the pass cost them 2 games against Big 12 opponents, which likely kept them out of the college football playoff. But the rest of the season, this team did go 9-4, with the defense not being very good at all. As a matter of fact, the pass defense was so bad that it basically negated how good the run defense was. So the Mustangs are still pretty good, even though that defense wasn't very good at all. Ironically, it kind of mirrors the basketball team in a way. No, the football defense wasn't that bad. But they can survive the defense taking some time to get its bearings underneath it, because I do think Rhett is a good play caller. And if he needs to go to more ball control offense, I think SMU's going to be able to do it, because they can keep the ball doing a lot of different things. Obviously, it's an RPO-based scheme. So you're telling the quarterback, get the ball out of your hands or hand it off to the running backs and let people make plays for you. Well, that's a good way to get 4 to 7, 4 to 8 yards, maybe pop one as well, every single play. And if executed well, you can go on 9, 10 play drives that are exposing your defense less and less. So you give the defense less opportunity to show some of its warts as they go through this transition. I do think SMU's offense is capable of doing that. But also what SMU's offense is going to be capable of doing is not putting a whole lot of pressure on the defense. Because I look at this offense, juxtapose it to the schedule and say they can, if they're going to be as good as we think they are, they can score points. I do think this defense, maybe are you guys with me on this one? I think this offense is going to be an offense that can score points. And if Kevin Jennings continues to take the next step that we think he should, he continues to get better and better, more in command of an offense. You got the wide receivers, Yannick Smith, Jalen Hale, Kendrick, Raphael, who I've already told you guys, I think he's going to be a stud. If this offense reaches its potential and reaches what I think it can do in terms of balance, in terms of being able to attack you in a diverse way, then the defense doesn't necessarily need to have it all figured out in week 2. They can come along, and then hopefully by the time, let's just say they play Virginia Tech, now we're really hitting our stride toward the back end of the season. I do think that is a distinct possibility for this SMU team. So it's not just going to be the fact that, okay, maybe the defense might surprise me. It's like, no, I don't know if they'll have to surprise anybody. I don't know if they have to be on an accelerated timeline, because I think Rhett is going to have that team on the other side of the football ready to go. And I think that Rhett looks at this schedule and looks at right out of the blocks, you've got 2 ACC teams in 12 days between Florida State and Louisville. So I think Rhett looks at that and says, all right, I got to have my side of the ball ready to go. Obviously, he wants to have the whole team ready to go, but Rhett is the offensive play caller. So he's thinking, I got to at least have my guys on that offensive end ready to go. And if they are in fact ready to go, and they are putting up things and numbers and yardage totals and keeping the ball like I think they are capable of doing, then the defense is not going to have to be lights out in September. And that's called complementary football, is it not? One side is a little bit weaker. All right, let me make your job easier. First-year play caller. Bunch of changes on the defensive line. Best playmaker from a season ago is gone. Let me give you some time. Let me buy you some time. You still are going to have to play decent football. Don't get me wrong. But let me buy you some time to really hit your stride. We'll take it from here. We'll be okay here. And if we need to score 30 points, they'll be capable of scoring 30 points. I don't think they'll need to against Florida State. They might need to against Louisville, but they're capable of it. But I do think no matter how they want to do this, if they want to go score 30 points or if they just look to keep the football and matriculate the ball down the field and make sure that the defense is making sure they've got time on the sideline to get their ample coaching and make the requisite adjustments, then they can do that too. And if that's the way they want to go, I'm cool with that too. Coming up next, we'll close out Locked On SMU talking about the one concern I've got for this offense, and that's the left side of the offensive line. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there for live for something like that is bucket list stuff. The hard part is actually always getting the tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, and surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. The Seat View feature is a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your exact seat before you buy. And Zone Deals let you pick the section and save even more while Game Time selects the seats. There's no stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to the final cut down. And right now, Fanduel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want, game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's gonna be something new. Different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds or crumbles. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. All right, wrapping it up here on Locked On SMU on this Tuesday. And I want to talk about the offensive line because this is going to be not a concern necessarily, but something to watch, maybe the something to watch going into the rest of the offseason and into fall camp. Because Logan Parr, who held it down at left guard, and Savion Byrd, who did most of the work at left tackle, are no longer here. They're no longer here. Logan Parr was a longtime captain, one of this team's leaders, one of the offensive line's leaders. And that is going to be something that you're going to have to monitor. Now, it is not a, let's call it a horrible weakness right now because the right side of that offensive line is really, really good. Where you've got Bates, Nichols, and Williams, center guard tackle on that right side. That's going to be really good. And I mean really good. PJ Williams could be a day 2 NFL draft pick. And Bates and Nichols on the interior have looked pretty good for the Mustangs. But if you go to that left side, it leaves a little bit up in the air. Does a guy like Dramod Odoms finally break into the starting into the starting rotation? And Dramod Odoms, if you remember, was a very highly thought of recruit. I believe he was SMU's first 5-star that they signed. So if you guys that have been following the program for a lot longer, this is a guy that you want to see covering recruiting when it comes to kids like that were 5-stars, that were heavily touted coming out of high school. You eventually want to see this guy get on the field. 4-star. He finished as a high 4-star. A 4-star 95. So right on the borderline of a 4 and 5-star. That's according to the Rivals industry rankings. I'm pretty sure there are others that could say he was a 5-star. But redshirt freshman dude who came into college at 6'6", 295 pounds. It is huge that he stayed. It's huge. But you've got a guy like Andrew Chambly, who is also in the mix. 6'6", 318. Former four-star guy who he originally started his career at Arkansas. Does he burst into the starting lineup? Here's what I will say. Whoever wins that starting left tackle job, I think is going to be pretty good. At least measurables wise, because there's no drop off there. They do check that box. And there is some upside to having a new left tackle because Savion Byrd, he was good last year, don't get me wrong, but there were points where he left something to be desired. I think we can all agree on that. There were things that he did not do well at certain points. Not to mention he was in and out of the lineup as well. So if they can get a little bit better there with a little bit of upside, I'm here for it. But the other question I have when it comes to offensive line position battles is, can you get these fixed as soon as possible? Get it fixed as soon as possible, because I want to know who my 5 is. And I know Garen Justice wants to know who his 5 are. But I want to know what the group of 5 is so y'all can start working together and get as much time together on the practice field as possible. Because the more successful offensive lines are the ones that put in more of the work together at the same time. And you never know who might turn an ankle in fall camp, get banged up and have to sit down for 3 days or something like that. You want to have that work built so that when we go into the season, which, by the way, begins in Tallahassee, Florida on Labor Day, we want to know. We want to know that you've put in as much work as possible as a unit. Not individually, not as a collection of individuals, as a bona fide unit. And those are the ones that are going to be the most successful. And SMU's got a chance to do something special this year, but they've got to iron out that blind side. They've got to iron out the fact that they got to make sure they shore up Kevin Jennings' left side. So if you're looking at the redshirt freshman in Dramad Odoms, sure, I would love to see it. I would love to see the young guy who I think to this day is still SMU's highest rated signee out of high school. But if the vet Andrew Chambly beats him, maybe you slide Odoms inside to guard. Maybe, I don't know what the plan is going to be there. Even though that guard situation is still up in the air as well. Because again, Logan Parr is no longer here. So, is it a young guy? And then who slides to guard would be the question. And we'll see if that gives us a resolution early in spring practices. If it does, great. But the sooner the better for a situation like this. The sooner the better. I don't want this dragging into fall camp and we still don't know who the starters are, especially at left tackle. At the minimum, if we don't know who the starters are, and we may not know, but as long as the coaching staff has an idea, at least have a 5 working together. That's what I want to see from this team. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here on this Tuesday edition. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. As always, hey, make sure you tap in with us tomorrow. We'll continue breaking down some spring football practice storylines. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On SMU ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonsmu.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. For those of you on video, make sure you tap in with our 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you check out Locked On College Basketball for your second listen of the day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.